1 p.m. on a Wednesday, and you tuned in to Gofifi FM 97.2, where we all began. Watching us live on Facebook or catching us on our YouTube channel. I am Katla Slepe. I'm an Elson educator here at RCS, and I'm not alone today. Before I go deeper into our topic of the day, I am with...
Hi everybody, I'm Robin Amoreti and I'm a speech therapist at RCS School.
Hello ladies, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Amanda Mellor. I am a senior tutor with Makaton, South Africa.
So I would like to know, what is your role at Makaton SA?
I wear a good number of hats at Makaton. As I said earlier, I am a senior Makaton tutor. We have 21 tutors in South Africa at the moment, which is lovely. And I also am a baby sign specialist. That's my little niche.
Okay.
That's my favorite place to be with the little people.
Nice.
And I'm also the committee secretary as well as the head of partnerships.
Oh.
So I'm, as I say, I wear many hats with Makaton.
Good job. So could you just explain what is the difference between, say, Makaton and sign language, and how does it even differ from, say, baby sign?
Okay, so there is absolutely no difference between Makaton and the baby sign.
Okay.
We use exactly the same system, exactly the same everything.
Okay.
What we might do with baby sign is teach slightly different signs,
Okay.
and we teach it all through singing and puppets, and
That's lovely.
really enjoyable. So it's fun for the little ones, and also it really helps the parents to remember the signs when they are singing, because the songs are lyrical and they rhyme and they're fun, and so it just really helps them to remember the signs. So that's how we do it. So Makaton, we try and do it in exactly the same way.
Yes.
So actually there is absolutely no difference between baby sign and Makaton. The biggest difference for me is I feel very strongly that baby sign can be used by absolutely everybody.
Indeed.
Whether your child has special needs or not. It's not just for the hard of hearing. It's not just for the special needs child. It's for absolutely everybody, because it develops and strengthens and supports speech and language learning. And also, the truth is that not every child is diagnosed with autism or special needs at birth. So if you can start from birth, then it's one less thing that everybody really has to worry about, because the communication journey has already begun. And it just makes life so much easier. So that's the Makaton side of it. In terms of the difference between Makaton and South African Sign Language, we use the signs from South African Sign Language. We have a sign consultant. She is a coder, so a child of deaf adults. Her first language is South African Sign Language. And she also works for the Department of Education in the Free State and sets all the first language matric sign language matric papers.
Okay, sure.
So she knows her stuff.
Yes.
And we're very, very privileged to have her as our sign consultant. So we get all of our signs from South African Sign Language. We don't make up our signs. We do not. And they are very, very strongly and deeply rooted in South African Sign Language. We don't use British Sign Language at all. Okay. The signs might be slightly different in terms of the fact that every single sign language has different dialects and different accents. So somebody speaking in Limpopo might say something slightly differently to somebody in the Cape. So what we at Makaton have done is we've looked at all the dialects and looked at all of the accents and found the signs that are the simplest for our community. So that would be the community with autism, with cerebral palsy, with Down syndrome, those who really struggle with communication. And we've taken the simplest form of that sign for everybody to be able to use, irrespective of their ability to sign.
Yes.
So they might be slightly different, but that's the reason why they are slightly different. The other big difference is that South African Sign Language is a language entirely on its own.
Yeah.
It has its own syntax, its own grammar, its own word order. It is a completely separate language. It's as different from English as isiXhosa is or French is.
Yes.
It's a completely separate language. So what we do with Makaton is we take the signs and we use them with speech.
Okay, so you're pairing them.
So we always pair them.
Okay.
You always speak with Makaton because many or most of our users are not deaf.
Okay.
They just struggle to communicate or struggle to speak. So they still need to hear the language. And so we always speak. It's a big thing with Makaton. You have to speak. It's very, very important. So we use signs from South African Sign Language with natural speech. So it can be used in any of the 11 spoken languages.
Okay.
So that you don't just have to use it in English in the language that it's taught in.
Okay.
And would you use it in that language's grammar?
Absolutely.
So, okay, so in English.
Word order grammar of the language that you are speaking, because you want that person that you are speaking to hear the language, to learn the language, and to understand the language.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, with sign language, it's like
Yes, it's very different.
Yeah.
It's usually like subject, object, verb.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but we want
We want to
for
follow
example,
natural
we want to
speech.
follow natural
Okay.
speech,
Okay.
so that they can eventually learn to speak if they are able to, or if that's the route that they are able to take. If they're not able to speak or they don't ever pick up speech, if you know that they are signing in English, then you can understand English and then you can speak to them in English. So in a way, you're not having to learn a completely new language. You're just using the signs. I always say that with Makaton, imagine you're studying, okay, and you've got your highlighter, and you have to remember a sentence, and you take your highlighter and you underline or you highlight the most important words in the sentence. That's exactly what you're doing with Makaton and the signing.
Okay.
Because you want to emphasize the most important words in the sentence so that the person that you are communicating with understands the gist of the sentence, the basis of the sentence. So, and so what you're doing with Makaton is they can hear the language, but then they can also see it.
Yes.
And so they get the message in two different ways. In two different ways. And also, there's a third mode of the motor mode. So if you're learning a new language or learning a language, there was a study, and I can't, as I'm sitting here, it's gone completely out of my head, but there was a study done where they found that if you learn a language through movement, it could be bouncing on one foot or dancing or whatever. If you learn a language with movement, you retain 90% more of that language.
Okay.
And that's where Makaton also helps, because you can sign the words and it sort of helps you remember and retain that word.
Okay.
And it's easier to produce. And I have a very funny story about a group that I was training in Durban, and one of the participants was heavily pregnant, and it got to the end of the day and she was shattered. She was absolutely finished, and they were having to communicate with each other, and she couldn't for the life of her remember one of the signs, and she was just sitting there. And the person that she was practicing with was frantically signing the sign, and she's I don't remember that sign at all. And then suddenly she started doing it, and as she started doing it, she said, "That's where." And then she could carry on with the rest of the exercise. And it was literally just that muscle memory, that motor movement that helped her remember. And it was such a brilliant example of how it really does help.
With that being said, guys, so this is a goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Breathe.